She leaves her son alone for hours. I found him crying in a locked room. Melissa's voice rang through the courtroom like a siren. My heart slammed in my chest. I shot up from my chair. That's a lie. Ms. Walker, the judge snapped, sit down or you'll be removed. My lawyer's hand pressed my arm. Aaron, breathe. Across the room, Melissa stood tall and perfect, tears glistening under the lights. Her blonde hair was pinned neatly. Her voice shook as she looked at the judge. I'm only here because I love my nephew. I can't stand by while my sister ruins him. My ex-husband, Thomas, smirked beside her. My stomach dropped. He was enjoying this. The judge sighed. We'll review all evidence. Melissa turned to me, lips curving into a quiet, poisonous smile. My throat burned. My own sister was destroying my life, and everyone believed her. I stared at her and whispered, You think you've won, but you have no idea what I'm holding. My name is Aaron Walker, and before that day I believed family meant safety. Turns out it means nothing when envy takes over. Melissa wasn't just my sister. She was my best friend growing up. We shared clothes, secrets, and dreams. But when my marriage ended, she stopped calling me sis. She started calling me poor Aaron. First, I thought she wanted to help. She brought casseroles, offered to babysit, even sent me motivational quotes. But then I noticed her tone changing. Raising a child alone must be so hard, she'd say, with that fake concern. And when I said I was fine, she'd laugh. You always say that, even when you're falling apart. Soon she was telling our mom that I was unstable, that I couldn't handle being a single mother. By the time I found out, the whispers had already begun. Started small. A neighbor avoided eye contact at the mailbox. My son's teacher looked uneasy during pickup. Then my mom called. Aaron, honey, Melissa says you've been struggling. Maybe let her take the boy for a weekend? I froze. Struggling? I'm fine. She's worried, Mom said gently. You've seemed tense lately. Course I was tense. I was working double shifts to pay rent while Melissa sat in her perfect house with her perfect husband. That night I called her. Stop talking about me behind my back. She gasped like I'd slapped her. Aaron, I'm just worried. You always twist everything. Click. She hung up. I remember standing there in the kitchen, holding my phone, staring at my son's crayon drawing on the fridge, me and him holding hands under a big yellow sun. And I promised myself no one will take him from me. No one. A week later, a woman from Child Services knocked on my door. Ma'am, we received an anonymous report, she said. Someone claimed your child is often left alone. I almost laughed. That's ridiculous. She looked around my small apartment. Clean. Toys on the shelf. Dinner simmering on the stove. My son played quietly in the living room. After a few questions, she closed her notebook. You seem like a great mom. Sorry for the trouble. But when she left, I sank to the floor and shook. I knew exactly who made that call. That night, I texted Melissa. Was that you? She replied in seconds. What are you talking about? Then another message. You sound paranoid. Maybe you should rest. I stared at the screen. My hands were trembling. That's when I realized she wasn't just gossiping. She was setting me up. I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I started collecting proof. Every text. Every voicemail. Every concerned message she sent our mom. If she wanted to ruin me, I'd make sure she did it with her own words. At family dinner, I wore a small recorder pinned under my sweater. Melissa leaned close. You should really get help, Aaron. For your child's sake. I smiled sweetly. You might be right. Click. Recorder blinking red. Later that night, I played it back. Her patronizing tone, her fake sympathy. It was all there. Each word was a nail she was hammering into her own coffin. I stopped crying after that. I stopped reacting at all. Because now I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the witness. And one day soon, the whole world would see what kind of woman my sister really was. Thomas showed up one night pretending to drop off school forms. He stood in my doorway with that smug half-smile I used to know so well. "Melissa says you've been overwhelmed," he said. "Maybe I should take Caleb for a while." The air left my lungs. "You've been talking to her?" "She just wants what's best for him." I stepped closer. "No, she wants control." He shrugged. "If you can't manage, get out." My voice cracked, but I held his stare until he left. After the door closed, I locked it, then slid down against the wood. Melissa had teamed up with the man who once promised to love me. I whispered into the quiet, "You can both try." I'm still his mother. School pickup the next week, two moms stopped talking as I approached. One gave me a forced smile. The other whispered, "Poor kid." Melissa's lies were spreading like wildfire. By the time I reached the car, my hands were shaking. That night I searched her Facebook. She'd posted a photo of my son with the caption, "Family is everything. Protect the little ones when others can't." Hundreds of likes. Comments saying, "You're such a caring aunt." I stared at that post until my eyes blurred. Then I took a screenshot. For the first time, instead of crying, I laughed quietly. Because she'd just added public evidence to her own trail. Mom came by with a pie, her peace offering for the week. "Melissa's worried," she started carefully. "Maybe you should let her help more." I set the pie on the counter. "Help? By lying to everyone?" Mom sighed. "She just wants the boy safe." Something inside me cracked. "Do you think I'd ever hurt my child?" Her lips trembled. "No, but..." I cut her off. "Stop letting her speak for me." Mom left in tears, and I stood staring at that untouched pie. It smelled like cinnamon and betrayal. I wrapped it in foil and threw it in the trash. At a family brunch, Melissa acted sweet as sugar. She hugged me, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "You look tired, Erin." I smiled back. "You too. It must be exhausting keeping up your halo." She blinked. "What?" "Nothing." I clicked my recorder on in my purse. Throughout brunch, she dropped hints, how some parents shouldn't be alone, how kids need stable homes. Each phrase was ammunition. When dessert came, she leaned closer. "You know, Thomas could probably provide better structure." I looked her dead in the eye. "You might want to choose your words carefully, sis. They're starting to sound permanent." She laughed nervously. I didn't. A week later, an email from Caleb's school popped up. "We're concerned about repeated absences." My heart pounded. He hadn't missed a day. Called the office. The secretary sounded confused. "We never sent that message." The email address? A fake, one letter off from the real school domain. I traced it. Came from a laptop registered to Melissa's husband's company. I didn't confront her. Printed it, dated it, and slid it into my growing folder labeled evidence. Every page felt like a brick in the wall I was building, one she'd never climb over. I stopped reacting to her. No more tears, no more shouting. Just quiet watching. Melissa hated that. She started dropping by unannounced, pretending to bring gifts for Caleb. Every time she'd look around my living room, sniff the air, ask casual little questions like, "So, still not working full-time, or he sleeps okay without nightmares?" I smiled and said, "Perfectly fine." Inside, I was memorizing every word. Each visit, I recorded her without her knowing. Every fake concern was another thread in the web she didn't realize I was spinning. One night, I heard Caleb crying in his room. He said Aunt Melissa told him, "Daddy might take you away soon." I felt my stomach twist. She'd crossed the final line. She was planting fear in my son's heart. I held him tight and whispered, No one is taking you, baby. But after he slept, I sat by his bed, shaking. This wasn't just gossip anymore. She was trying to destroy his sense of safety. That night, I typed a long note in my phone. When she falls, it won't be by chance. It'll be by evidence. I found a lawyer who believed me. Her name was Sophia Grant, sharp eyes, calm voice, no patience for bullies. After hearing everything, Sophia said, if we can prove defamation or interference, we can protect your custody rights. I pulled out the folder. Photos, screenshots, text messages, recordings. She flipped through them slowly, her eyebrows lifting higher with each page. Finally, she looked up. Aaron, this is gold. You've built a better case than most private investigators. For the first time in months, I exhaled without shaking. It was the first breath of power. Melissa must have sensed something changing. She started calling Mom more often, painting herself as the victim. She's so cold to me now, I overheard once. I just worry she's unstable. I didn't interrupt. I wanted her to keep talking, because every lie she told now would sound different in court. At night, I practiced what I'd say before the judge. Not bitter, not broken, just steady. I looked in the mirror and whispered, "You're not the villain in this story. You're the proof." I slept well that night for the first time in a long time. Court summons came 2 weeks later. Melissa had filed a formal complaint questioning my fitness as a mother. She'd really done it. I sat there holding the paper, my pulse loud in my ears. Caleb was coloring at the table. He looked up and smiled, completely unaware his aunt wanted to take him from me. I kissed his head and whispered, "We'll be okay." Then I called Sophia. "Time to open the vault," I said. Her reply was calm but firm. "Then let's make her regret ever stepping into that courtroom." Courthouse smelled like old wood and nerves. Melissa sat across from me in her cream blazer, smiling like she was the picture of grace. When our eyes met, she tilted her head slightly, mock sympathy. I almost laughed. Sophia placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Remember," she whispered, "you don't have to prove you're perfect. You just have to show the truth." The judge entered. Everyone stood. My stomach clenched so tight I thought I'd faint. Then the hearing began, and Melissa's lawyer rose to speak. Her voice dripped with poison disguised as concern. "Your Honor," Melissa's lawyer began, "my client only acted out of love and worry. She believes Ms. Carter's emotional state poses a risk to young Caleb." I felt heat rush to my face. Melissa even dabbed her eyes with a tissue for effect. They called her to the stand. She described me as unstable, lonely, and obsessed with control. The words hit like bullets. I gripped the edge of the table, nails digging in. Every sentence was a twisted version of my life. Sophia leaned close and whispered, "Don't flinch. Every lie she tells is building your win." So I stayed still, silent, boiling inside. When it was my turn, my hands shook. Sophia guided me to the stand. "Tell the court what really happened." My voice wavered at first, but then I looked at Caleb's little drawing in my folder. A son, a stick figure mom, and the words, "I love you, Mommy." That's when my courage came back. I spoke. About the gossip. The lies. The night Caleb cried because of her. The screenshots. The recordings. Courtroom grew quiet. Even the judge leaned forward. By the time I finished, my throat hurt, but my heart felt lighter. For once, the truth wasn't trapped inside me. Then Sophia stood, calm as ever. "Your Honor, we have evidence to present." She clicked her laptop, and a recording echoed through the courtroom. Melissa's voice, sharp and cold. "She doesn't deserve that boy. I'll make sure she loses him if it's the last thing I do." Gasps filled the room. Melissa's face turned pale. Sophia continued, "That's not love, Your Honor. That's manipulation." She handed over printed texts, Screenshots where Melissa bragged to a friend about making Aaron break down. Melissa's lawyer stuttered, trying to object. But it was too late. The air in the courtroom had shifted. By the third day, Melissa wasn't smiling anymore. She avoided my gaze completely. Her voice cracked when she spoke. The judge called for closing statements. Sophia rose, voice firm but measured. Family is supposed to protect each other. Ms. Carter was betrayed by the very person who should have stood by her. What my client endured was not concern, it was cruelty disguised as care. The judge nodded slowly. Then he turned to Melissa. Ms. Carter, do you have anything to say? Melissa's lips trembled. For the first time, she looked small. I didn't mean to hurt her. But everyone could see she wasn't sorry. She was only sorry she got caught. Courtroom felt different that morning, heavy, expectant. Even the air seemed to hum with tension. Melissa sat 2 rows ahead, her hair slightly undone, her eyes swollen. Her lawyer whispered something to her, but she didn't nod. She just stared at the floor. I clutched my pendant, the one Caleb made with a plastic heart charm, and whispered to myself, just one more day. Hold on. The judge cleared his throat. Before I deliver my verdict, he said, there is one final piece of evidence. My pulse skipped. It was the flash drive Sophia had kept for last, the one that would end everything. The screen lit up with another recording, Melissa's voice again, clear as glass. She's too soft to fight back, she said, laughing. Once the rumors spread, no one will trust her again. Caleb's better off with me anyway. The sound filled the courtroom. Each word stabbed through the silence. Melissa's face drained of color. Her lawyer shut his eyes. I watched without blinking. It didn't feel like revenge, it felt like release. The judge's tone turned cold. This, he said, was a deliberate act to defame a mother and destabilize a child. Melissa's lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, I wasn't the one trembling. She was. The judge leaned back in his chair, sighing deeply before speaking. Ms. Carter, he began, your sister's actions were cruel and calculated. Court finds in favor of Aaron Carter. Full custody remains with her. A rush of sound filled the room, murmurs, papers rustling, the thud of my heartbeat in my ears. Melissa froze. Her lawyer tried to speak, but she just shook her head slowly, disbelief written all over her face. I sat perfectly still, hands clasped in my lap. Tears slid down my cheeks, but I didn't sob. Sophia leaned close. You did it. No. I thought. Truth did. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions, cameras flashing. I didn't stop for any of them. Caleb ran toward me from my mom's car, yelling, Mommy! I scooped him up, burying my face in his hair. He smelled like sunshine and safety. Are we going home now? He asked. Yes, baby, I said, smiling through tears. We're going home. Across the parking lot, Melissa stood by her car. She looked lost, not angry, not proud, just empty. For a brief second, our eyes met. She mouthed, I didn't think it would go this far. I held Caleb tighter and turned away. Some lessons have to burn before they're learned. A year later, Caleb and I moved into a little yellow house near the lake. He rides his bike down the quiet street every afternoon, laughing freely now. Sometimes I sit on the porch, coffee in hand, watching him chase the wind. People in town stopped whispering. They know what really happened and who I really am. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I found an envelope in my mailbox. It was from Melissa. Inside a single note, I lost everything. But maybe I needed to. I folded it carefully and tucked it away. Not out of forgiveness, but closure. My voiceover would have ended here if this were a story online. Don't fight lies with rage. Fight them with truth, patience, and proof. Because when the judge reads your evidence, the world finally sees who was lying all along. And that's exactly what I did.